Section 7C, Reenlistments and Continuation 7.10, Selective Reenlistment Program. The Selective Reenlistment Program applies to all enlisted personnel by which commanders/civilians, directors, and supervisors evaluate first term, second term, and career airmen to ensure the USAF retains those who consistently demonstrate the capability and willingness of maintaining high professional standards. First-term airmen receive selective reenlistment consideration when they are within 15 months of their expiration of term of service. Second-term and career airmen with less than 19 years of total active federal military service are considered within 13 months of the original expiration of term of service. Career airmen receive selective reenlistment consideration within 13 months of completing 20 years of total active federal military service. Career airmen who have served beyond 20 years of total active federal military service receive selective reenlistment consideration each time they are within 13 months of their original expiration of term of service. 7.11 Selective Reenlistment Program Considerations. Commanders and civilian directors consider enlisted performance report ratings, unfavorable information from any substantiated source, the airman's willingness to comply with USAF standards, and the airman's ability, or lack thereof, to meet required training and duty performance levels when determining if a member may reenlist. Supervisors should carefully evaluate the airman's duty performance and review the airman's personnel records, to include the AF Form 1137, Unfavorable Information File Summary, if applicable, before making a recommendation to unit commanders and civilian directors concerning the airman's career potential. Non-selectee. If an airman is not selected for reenlistment, an AF Form 418, Selective Reenlistment Program, SRP, considerations/denial of continued service for airmen, is completed, and the airman is informed of the decision. The commander sends the completed form to the military personnel flight after the airman signs and initials the appropriate blocks. The commander must make sure the airman understands the right to appeal the decision. The airman has up to 3 calendar days to render an appeal intent. The airman must submit the appeal to the military personnel flight within 10 calendar days of the date he or she renders the appeal intent on the form. Appeal authority. The specific appeal authority is based on an airman's total active federal military service. The appeal authority for first-term airmen and career airmen who will complete at least 20 years of total active federal military service on their current expiration of term of service appeal selective reenlistment program non-selection is the respective group commander. The appeal authority for second-term and career airmen who will complete fewer than 16 years of total active federal military service on their current expiration of term of service is the respective wing commander. The appeal authority for second-term and career airmen who will complete at least 16 years of total active federal military service but fewer than 20 years of total active federal military service on their current expiration of term of service is the Secretary of the Air Force. The decision of the appeal authority is final. The appeal authority's decision is documented, and the airman is advised of the outcome. Commanders may also conduct selective reenlistment consideration at any time outside the standardized window. 7.12 Non-Commissioned Officer Career Status Program. The Non-Commissioned Officer Career Status Program extends the length of reenlistments for Reg AF airmen. All airmen who have been selected for continued service by their commander/civilian director, to include those with approved waivers, and who have at least 12 years total active federal military service on date of discharge, day prior to reenlistment, will be reenlisted for an unspecified period. These airmen will serve up to their high year of tenure based on current grade, or if promoted, projected grade unless sooner separated by USAF policy or law under the NCO Career Status Program. Airmen who serve 20 or more years of total active federal military service may retire, if otherwise eligible, no later than the first day of the month following high year of tenure. This program streamlines the reenlistment and extension process and alleviates unnecessary administrative actions for airmen, supervisor chains, and military personnel flights. 7.13 Career Job Reservation Program. Because of various career force size and composition restrictions, there are times when the USAF must place a limit on the number of authorized first-term airmen who may re-enlist. The Career Job Reservation (CJR) program exists to assist in the management of first-term airmen re-enlistments by Air Force Specialty Code (AFSC) to prevent surpluses and shortages. All eligible first-term airmen must have an approved CJR to re-enlist. Airmen are automatically placed on the career job applicant list on the first duty day of the month during which they complete 35 months on their current enlistment, 59 months for 6-year enlistees, but no later than the last duty day of the month during which they complete 43 months on their current enlistment, 67 months for 6-year enlistees. To keep their approved CJR, airmen must re-enlist on or before the CJR expiration date. CJRs may be constrained, limited, quotas or unconstrained, unlimited quotas. Constrained first-term airmen in constrained AFSCs have limited quotas, when available and compete for a CJR. Commanders or civilian directors recommend award of CJRs to airmen in constrained AFSCs where an allocation has been awarded. Approval of CJRs is made at the group commander level, or equivalent. Commanders or civilian directors may recommend first-term airmen for award of a CJR anytime during the airman's CJR window. Airmen outside their CJR window are not eligible for award of a CJR. Airmen's EPRs must reflect that the member has met the minimum expectation and not have an unfavorable information file, lost time, or record of active non-judicial punishment on their current enlistment in order to be considered for a CJR. The airman's job performance, demonstrated leadership, how the airman exemplifies USAF core values, and ability to succeed in the AFSC should also be considered. Upon airmen entering their CJR window, commanders or civilian directors are encouraged to advise airmen on their potential for a CJR and, when appropriate, encourage retraining. When constrained AFSCs are implemented, Air Force Personnel Center issues CJR quotas on a fiscal year basis, and selection authorities may consider airmen by board, nomination packages, etc. Airmen who are on the CJR waiting list and whose AFSC is removed from the constrained list will receive a CJR. Airmen who are removed from the waiting list prior to the AFSC being removed will not receive supplemental consideration. If eligible, airmen qualify for award of a CJR when an allocation exists, and the airman is in their CJR eligibility window. When the group commander, or equivalent, approves an airman for award of a CJR, Air Force Personnel Center will verify an allocation exists, and will reduce the number of remaining CJRs accordingly. Note: approved CJRs do not expire until the airman's date of separation. Unconstrained, airmen in unconstrained AFSCs do not compete for a CJR. Airmen are automatically awarded the CJR on the first duty day of the month during which they complete 35 months on their current enlistment, 59 months for 6-year enlistees, but no later than the last duty day of the month during which they complete 43 months on their current enlistment, 67 months for 6-year enlistees, provided they have been selected for continued service by their commander/civilian director under the Selective Reenlistment program. 7.14 Enlistment Extensions. Airman serving on an active enlistment may request an enlistment extension if he or she has a service-directed retainability reason and the extension is in the best interest of the USAF. Extensions are granted in whole month increments. For example, if the individual needs 15.5 months of retainability for an assignment, the individual must request a full 16-month extension. Voluntary extensions for all airmen are limited to a maximum of 48 months per enlistment. In the event that USAF specialties are constrained, the Air Staff may limit first-term airmen extensions to a specified period. Certain situations, such as citizenship pending, may warrant exceptions to policy. Airmen may be eligible to request an extension of enlistment to establish a date of separation at high year of tenure to separate or retire. Normally, airmen must be within 2 years of their high year of tenure before they can extend. Note: once approved, an extension has the Legal effect of the enlistment agreement by extending the airman's period of obligated service. Enlistment extensions can only be cancelled when the reason for the extension no longer exists, as long as the airman has not already entered into the extension. 7.15. Selective Retention Bonus. The Selective Retention Bonus (SRB) program is a monetary incentive paid to airmen serving in certain selected critical military skills who re-enlist for additional obligated service. The bonus is intended to encourage the re-enlistment of sufficient numbers of qualified enlisted personnel in military skills with either demonstrated retention shortfalls or high training costs. Airmen in SRB skills who re-enlist or extend their enlistment in the active duty for at least 3 years are eligible for an SRB provided they meet all criteria listed in AFI 36-2606, Reenlistment, an extension of enlistment in the United States Air Force, January 27, 2021. Airmen can expect to serve in the SRB specialty for the entire enlistment for which the bonus was paid. SRB designations are established by zones, which are determined by the total active federal military service of airmen at the time of re-enlistment, or the date they enter the extension. Eligible airmen may receive an SRB in each zone, A, B, C, or E, but only one SRB per zone. Zone A applies to airmen re-enlisting between 17 months and 6 years. Zone B applies to airmen re-enlisting between 6 and 10 years. Zone C applies to airmen re-enlisting between 10 and 14 years. Zone E applies to airmen re-enlisting between 18 and 20 years. SRBs are calculated using 1 month's base pay, multiplied by the number of years re-enlisting or extending, multiplied by the SRB multiple as listed on the authorized SRB listing. The maximum SRB per zone is $100,000. Note: the airman's base pay on the date of discharge is used to calculate the SRB. Therefore, if an airman was promoted to Staff Sergeant on May 1st and re-enlisted on May 1st, the SRB would be calculated on the base pay of the day prior to the re-enlistment as Senior Airman. 7.16. USAF Retraining Program. Retraining is a force management tool used primarily to balance career fields, officer and enlisted, across all AFSCs, and to ensure sustainability of career fields. Retraining also provides a means to return disqualified airmen to a productive status. Although airmen may be selected for involuntary retraining based on USAF needs, the retraining program allows a limited number of airmen the opportunity to pursue other career paths in the USAF. The online retraining advisory is a living document found on MyPers, maintained by the Air Force Personnel Center as a key tool used to advise members of retraining opportunities. For additional information on retraining eligibility and application procedures, refer to AFMAN 36-2100. First-Term Airman Retraining Program. First-term airmen assigned to the continental United States may apply not earlier than the first duty day of the month during which they complete 35 months of their current enlistment, 59 months for 6-year enlistees, but not later than the last duty day of the 43rd month of their current enlistment, 67 months for 6-year enlistees. First-term airmen assigned outside the continental United States may apply for retraining 9 to 15 months prior to the date they are eligible to return from overseas if serving within their normal first-term window, 35th month for 4-year enlistees or 59th month for 6-year enlistees. Airmen with an indefinite return from overseas date must complete the original tour length before departing for retraining. On the last duty day of each month, the Air Force Personnel Center selects the most eligible airmen for retraining based on quality indicators of most recent performance report rating, current grade, projected grade, previous 2 performance report ratings, date of rank, total active federal military service date, aptitude qualification examination score, electrical, mechanical, administrative, general, Air Force Enlisted Classification Directory, Part 2, and requested AFSC. Preferences. Non-Commissioned Officer Retraining Program. The NCO retraining program is designed to retrain second-term and career airmen from overage USAF specialties into shortage specialties to optimize the enlisted force and to best meet current and future mission needs. Airmen possessing a secondary or additional AFSC in a shortage skill may be returned to the shortage skill if in the best interest of the USAF. Phases 1 and 2. The NCO retraining program consists of 2 phases. The objective of Phase 1 is to obtain volunteer applicants from identified overage AFSCs to fill requirements in shortage specialty codes. All airmen with retraining out objectives may apply for any available specialty codes with retraining in objectives for which they qualify. During Phase 1, if sufficient applications are not received and retraining objectives for the fiscal year are not met, implementation of Phase 2 is necessary. In Phase 2, airmen will be selected for mandatory retraining based on USAF needs to balance the force. The Master Vulnerability List is used to select airmen for mandatory retraining. 7.17 Officer Cross-Flow and Reclassification Programs. Tools and procedures are available to address career field manning imbalances and shape the officer force within authorized, funded end strength. The non-rated line cross-flow program addresses manning shortages and overages by conducting a cross-flow panel when needed to select the best qualified officers to fill the required vacancies. The Missile Cross-Flow Program is a process ensuring the nuclear and missile operations 13N Air Force specialty remains balanced for sustainment by cross-flowing excess officers at the 4-year point back to donor career fields. Out-of-cycle cross-flow requests, as well as initial skills training reclassification, are additional programs to ensure the balance of officer career fields.